All right, we will go ahead and get started. So as I had said, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you are calling in from. I am Jeremy Majeski, the principal of Frankfurt International School's Wiesbaden campus, a small by design or intentionally small school. I have a school of about 200 students, preschool to grade 8, underneath the umbrella of Frankfurt International School. So our main campus has over 1,600 students, but I've spent the last 2 years here helping to design what it is about small schools that make us thrive. So I'm excited to be here today with you all. As we get this special interest group up and running. And so this is a group that's been kind of in the background for the last year or so with some chatter around, let's start a group, let's come together, let's collaborate, let's learn from one another. And it has officially become a special interest group as of this spring. And we're working on filling out our committee to lead the group with us next year. And so I did want to quickly start out by recognizing a few folks in the room today who are on that committee with me. Owen, do you want to chime in, say hello, kind of where you're from, what's going on?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, sure, Jeremy. Hi, everybody. My name's Owen. I'm the principal also of a campus in a larger school setting, this time in Bavarian International School in Munich at the city campus.
Thanks, Owen. And we also have Allison Stark. Allison, do you want to say hello? I saw Allison there. All right, maybe she'll want to chime in a bit. And I do see on the screen, Wayne Johnson has, as of 20 minutes ago, has just signed the agreement to be a member of our committee as well. So Wayne is brand new to us. Wayne, do you want to say hello?
Yeah, please. Yeah, thanks for that, Jeremy. 20 minutes ago, so really happy to be part of this small groups committee. My name is Wayne Johnson. I'm head of school at the International School of Belgium, just outside of Antwerp. So hi, everybody. Look forward to working with all of you.
Awesome. Thanks, Wayne. So we're going to go. Allison's there. Allison, did you want to chime in and say hello?
Allison can unmute if she wants.
She's
Hi, sorry, I've got no sound. I'm trying to, I've got some technical issues, but hello, welcome everybody.
Perfect. All right, well, we're really excited to get started. I don't want to waste too much time chatting because I'm really excited to be able to introduce to you all Dr. Stuart Grauer, who is a school leader and somebody who's worked in independent schools for a number of years. I'll let him talk about those years. But the reason why he's here with us today is, since this group has started, there's been chatter on what is a small school. Is a small school 70 students? Is a small school, a school of 13 that's starting up? Is a small school a campus of 700 that's attached to a campus of 2,000? What is a small school? And that's been something that we've been wrestling with for the last year or so. And I was really excited to come across Dr. Stuart Grauer, who had reached out and said, hey, I've got some research in this area and I've got some knowledge and expertise. I was able to meet with him last month and I was just blown away with some of the stuff that he's compiled over the years to help us kind of define what it is makes a small school intentionally small. So without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to pass things over to Stuart and take it away.
All right.
I don't know if the share is working, Stuart. Oh, here we go.
There we go.
Hi, everybody. Give me a wave if you can hear me. Great, great. Good day, everybody. Whatever time it is, wherever you are, and welcome. And thank you, Jeremy and Sarah and Joe and the whole team. Thanks for this great work you're doing. And I'm going to go fast because I only have about 18 minutes. I was going to present on the topic, what is a small school? I think mainly because a local fisherman, I was going to present to them on what is a small fish, but they hadn't caught any. They were all big. So I defaulted to this. I went to graduation of my niece, Danielle, at Texas A&M, where there are 48,000 students. And we spent the whole time from our seat in the stands of the stadium trying to locate her. The college president had allocated 3 seconds per student diploma. So when at last they called her name, Danielle, I fumbled for my camera and I was able at last to find her and capture a grainy photo of the back of her mortarboard cap as she was exiting the podium with her diploma. And for that 3 seconds, I flew 2,000 miles. I wrote a story about this called Bigness in Fearless Teaching that I'd love to share with you if you write me. My name is Stuart Grauer, as Jeremy said. I'm the founding head of the Grauer School in Encinitas, California, a Southern California surf town where I go surfing before work a few times a week, and old Woodies still drive around town. And along the past 32 years of intense and constant focus on the development of this school, we grew from a borrowed storefront in a strip mall to a $25 million establishment, intentionally capped in student body size and small permanently by design. So along those years, I began to notice that something extraordinary was happening, a secret sauce that was healthy and joyful. And I started trying to study and explain it and to make sure that it was shareable. And ultimately that led to founding the Small Schools Coalition, which you can join for free, and you'll have almost endless ammo for explaining to faculty and clients what's amazing about your small school. They need to hear it. I now spent the past 20 years studying small schools and creating stories and white papers on them. And I did this for my own purposes, but over time, 2 things occurred. First, we started getting nationally normed data on student well-being and performance that only schools our size showed. And that secret data was so extraordinary, my jaw dropped. And the second thing that happened was that my column telling all about that secret sauce, really written just for my own school parents and teachers, grew to thousands of readers. And I didn't know why. You can Google Stuart Grauer's blog and sign up for free. There's something special about small schools if we take advantage of that design feature and stop acting like we are less. So I started teaching others how to be a champion of the small school model. Anyone who asked. Jeremy asked me to address small school leaders around Europe around the question, what is a small school? And that's a great starting point. I have a ton of material on many related topics. So today, for these total 20 minutes, I'm going to skim around in the hope that something or other sparks some action on your part. And if you want more ideas, we can work something out. Just let me know. Small schools and what they are is a great topic. And I'm really thrilled and honored to be able to present to you. So thank you all for coming. Really, I appreciate it. When I started out as a small school educator, the question that I got drilled on most was, if I send my child to a school that's small, how are we going to prepare for the real world? This real world question comes up a lot. It can be frustrating, and it is a fantastic opportunity for you. I think it even might make a great breakout question, Jeremy. So I will not answer it yet, if that works. Eventually, I just started to answer that question this way. If you want to go to Texas A&M, where there are 48,000 students, sending your son or daughter to a high school with 48,000 students is probably not the best way. There are a number of key topics to learn about small schools. I have reviewed the literature on the benefits of small or smaller schools and learning communities as compared to large or middle-sized schools, and eventually arrived at 6 key areas for categorization. Each could be a workshop. Safety, the most important to some, teaching conditions, academic performance and grades, culture of connection and inclusiveness, maybe my favorite area, and I had a lot of graphs that you might have seen in the slideshow, learning choices and curriculum, and finally, costs of small schooling, a huge topic I hope we can get to, but probably won't have much time today. There are pages for each of these in the Small Schools Coalition website, but send us and me more articles if you have any or find them, because we're gathering them all in probably the largest library of small schools research anywhere. So research has shown that small schools have very strong advantages in all of those 6 areas, except one, that cost is in dire need of additional research. Larger schools appear to cost less if you don't factor in any of the results that they get. Each of these is a separate seminar, but anyway, Jerry's request is define small schools as a great start and sensible, because if we don't know what a small school is, we can't really do much research. And as I dug into small school research, which almost did not exist when I started, I discovered early on 3 ignored facts. Number 1, schools and school districts in the United States, anyway, have grown steadily in size for well over 120 years and with no research base to support that. Number 2, since the 60s in the United States, teachers have been consistently expressing their desire for smaller learning communities. And 3, with little research base, smaller learning communities are routinely perceived and treated as less by virtue of their size, especially by districts wanting to consolidate, when in fact they often offer a great deal more in essential areas. Now let's try to define a small school. First, the not. Beware of imitators. Many professionals, including competitors at large school, will claim to be small whenever convenient. One larger school admissions office was saying for years they were just like the Grauer School, but with more programs and a bigger campus, till we shut this down. The fastest way to get derailed is to let someone tell you their bigger school has small school features, so it can do what you do, but also more. That dog won't hunt. Challenge it, never let a lie stand. For instance, some small schools love to claim that their school has a theme, a magnet, or a charter, or it has some Harkness tables, and that makes them effectively small. Small schools often easily have a theme, so people claim if they have a theme or a magnet, they're doing the work of small schools. They are not. This is more noise from the supposed real world people. What I love about small schools most is what I call eye to eye. If your school has to configure a lot of classes into rows rather than seminar circles or workstations, it's probably not a small school. 2, size. This is the single real defining factor. Small schools are defined by size. Whether they utilize those advantages of small size or not. If they know the advantages, they're more likely to use them, but they are still small, even if they sit in rows and do standardized tests all day. My role with the Small Schools Coalition is not to show educators what they can do that makes them small, but to show your small school what you can do to make you excel and receive those unique, extraordinary benefits that only a school your size can receive. Once classes get over 12 to 14 students, and once campuses contain more than somewhere between 150, 250 people, things start to shift. If you exceed 300, you start not to be a small school anymore. 400 is not small, unless maybe you are a public district with thousands in all the other schools. Thresholds matter. In California in the 90s, we had the Class Size Reduction Act. We spent $1 billion adding trailers to campuses all over the state so classes could be reduced in size. As the classes dropped from 35 to 28, what we saw was this: absolutely nothing. And so it was declared that small classes don't make a difference. But nobody said until you drop them below 15 or so and can have a conversation where everyone is eye to eye and everyone is included with no back roads, it's not a small class. And the law did not even address school or campus size. A small school, similarly, is not a school if it consists of 400 or more students, and approaching that size only if it does things right. According to Gregory's research, education is optimal at close to half that size. An extensive literature review has shown me that at around 300 students and sometimes less, many small school advantages diminish. I actually like to count the number of people on campus rather than the number of students, because the size of the community is what really matters. And talking that way in terms of your community size is a very small school community thing to do. What we know about group size, organizational dynamics, and behavior in social networks is, of course, not just confined to schools. There's a ton of great work in anthropology, sociology, history, and organizational development. To date, however, this research has been mainly disregarded as a part of school design and organization. Consider, a typical community in an ancient hunter-gatherer society had almost 120 people. And around the average number of friends on Facebook is that as well. In starting out on our research into small schools, we were fascinated at these historical bookends. What makes these numbers manageable? In The Tipping Point, Malcolm Gladwell used data from the British anthropologist Robin Dunbar, who had found an upward limit for groups focusing on sharing, values, and cooperation. Dunbar set the approximate parameters of around 100 to 230 as the maximum number of meaningful social connections individuals can cognitively handle, the best size for a successful village. Dunbar, selecting a sensible middle number, called this the rule of 150, Dunbar's number. Typically at 150, Dunbar believed, people don't need institutionalized hierarchies. People naturally specialize as we need them to. There is social mobility, there's a sense of meritocracy, and there's a maximized sense of belonging. Mature communities, such as the Amish or the Hutterite, even most military companies around the world, seem to follow the same unwritten rule. Gladwell and others believe that beyond Dunbar's number, above around 150, the human mind must resort to some combination of ranking, stereotyping, clique identities in order to sort out so many people and their roles and relationships. This is why inclusion works better in small, diverse groups than large. This is a giant takeaway for the DEI-BJ movement. Please ask me about this later if we get to it. Humans tend to have personal thresholds on the number of others they can acknowledge. High school environments, which are intimate, can succeed at minimizing the amount of bullying, social threat, or disunity. Small schools are the most resistant to division and alienation. Continuing Dunbar's work, Bernard and Kilworth estimated 231 as the optimum size of a person's social network, which of course matched Dunbar's upper end. They had used university campuses as their locations. 231 people could sustain a social network within 1 degree of separation, according to Buchanan. Deborah Meyer famously pioneered small schools in the United States. Her Central Park East Secondary School started in 1984, broke down schools of over 1,000, capped at 450 students. Meyer reported clear gains in student safety and performance at the time of the first graduating class in 1991 and got a MacArthur Genius Award. In a personal communication with me, Deb eventually defined smallness as between 300 and 400 students for urban public schools, where some of those Dunbar numbers are impossible. Hence, with enrollments of 450, the famous Central Park East experiment broke Deb's heart. It was not small, and eventually it folded. That reminds me of the tragedy of Bill Gates and the Gates Foundation small school disaster. The well-intentioned Gates Foundation put small schools on the map a few years ago and then wiped them off. The Gates Foundation funded small schools, and they were declared a resounding success when they started out, with numbers running less than 400 students. There was excitement everywhere and lots more interest in funding. As the Gates schools in their excitement allowed student bodies to creep up to 500, they were still labeled and evaluated as small schools. They naturally lost their impact. The research changed. The Hall Initiative failed because of the enormous influence of Gates. The Hall small school movement was dealt a devastating blow and died of attribution bias. Small schools succeeded. Schools of 500 failed, but nobody ever said it that way. Insisting that a school is small is just as important, insisting that a school is not small is just as important as identifying that it is small. Torrey Pines, near me, a large suburban high school in San Diego County, serves one of the nation's wealthiest zip codes. In the 1990s, the school added a large wing that brought its student body to over 3,000 students. In the same district, a local school board approached me about small school design, and after the result, they designed a special school for a maximum of around 1,300 students, hardly intimate. This they called a school of choice, and it was routinely being referred to all over my town as a small school, not because it was intimate or safe, but because it was so much smaller than its much larger neighbor. This was the same time as when I started promoting our own small school model in the area, and there was wide public misunderstanding. We were an open target, and it both damaged our business and forced us to be smarter. And so I know how frustrating it can be when you do your amazing work and people are obfuscating it. My intuition based on group size and social network research suggests that small schools with between 150 or 231, or well fewer if you wish, can foster that sense of belonging and minimize social threats, which is a lot of what we're looking for. Small schools benefits are a whole other webinar, unfortunately, but in a quick summation, in true small schools, students are absent less, drop out at nearly half the rate, have a higher grade point average, and improve reading scores by almost a half-year grade equivalency more than large schools. While small schools appear to have a higher cost per pupil than large schools, they may have a lower cost per graduate, since they tend to have lower dropout rates. The higher percentage of dropouts from large schools are also associated with additional societal costs, such as higher crime rates and lower lifetime earnings. In Matthew's 2014 study of the nation's most academically challenging schools, 40% of them were schools of less than 350 students, an extremely disproportional distribution in favor of small schools. One of my favorite aspects of the small school is that the school develops its own unique culture. The culture of small schools typically revolves around hard work, high aspirations, respect for others, and the expectation that we will all succeed. School culture would also make a good breakout question regarding the small school culture. So please advocate for research on small schools at your university and at your departments of education. Efforts to define, measure, and promote small schools have been weakened by the constant shifting in the size of such schools, circular referencing, resulting from an insufficient body of research. Research is badly needed. And let me close my talk with a note about you all. Small school leader is different. We're welcome in classes frequently, randomly, judgmentally. People know our name. We don't have gatekeepers. In this way, the small school leader stays in touch on a more intimate level, can greet people at opening and closing. The small school leader interacts more closely with all constituents, has way few gatekeepers, is exposed on the front line. One of the greatest achievements I've ever done as a small school leader is to serve freshly squeezed orange juice to people driving up. We're family, except we must learn to take nothing personally, except even when it seems deeply so. The next phase of small school research provides key data on all 6 small school attributes. With this ammo, you can empower your constituents. So thank you for all of your interest in small schools and for creating and refining the milestones that make your school unique and emergent, and all the ceremony that keeps refining year after year that really means something to the individuals who go there. Small schools are not less by virtue of their size, they are more. Thank you for being a small school leader. Thank you.
Wow. Stuart, I hope you all see why, after having an hour conversation with him last month, I felt like we needed to have him on. He's definitely got a lot of excitement and passion around small schools, and I want to be able to dig into that a little bit more with him. We do have some time for that today. What I would like to do right now, obviously, Stuart, you just had the floor for a good 20 minutes. You've got our minds going. I want to process a little bit of that. So Joe, if you can put us into breakout rooms of about 4. I have a question here for everyone to be considering. What are some key takeaways or insights you've gained from Stuart that you believe can be applied to your work or your practice? Joe, if you want to set the timer for about 10 minutes, I think that would be perfect. So we've got a good 20 minutes to come back for some question and answer. So heading off into some breakout rooms, here's the question, and we'll see you back in 10 minutes. So one thing about Zoom I don't like, where it just kind of jolts you out of that conversation right in the middle of a sentence. It just pulls you back. Something we don't have in person. So welcome back, everybody. Thank you for those hefty conversations. As I was popping around from room to room, I noticed a lot of questions out there, which is great. And so we are lucky enough to have Stuart on the line for the next 15-20 minutes or so. And I'm looking to see if Stuart is back here with us. Stuart, did you make it back?
I'm right here.
There you are. I see you. You're on my screen. Oh, perfect. So Stuart, I want to start. I'll start out with a question to get us rolling. But if you have a question, go ahead and put your hand up, and we will call folks in order of their hands being put up. Like I said, we have about 15 minutes. We do want to do a hard stop at about 5 p.m. Central European time. So Stuart, you had mentioned equity, justice, and belonging, and how that thrives in small schools. Can you talk a little bit more? I think, EJB, DEIJ work is something that's pretty prevalent in many of our schools right now. What makes small schools such a good match for this EJB work?
That's a great question, and obviously very important. You can do the body count method of diversity and inclusion and just see how many different ethnicities and how many different skin colors are in the room. But kids don't think that way. Kids think, oh, that guy is from a different type of family. That guy's a skater. That guy's a academic. That guy's in the mature group. That's more of a cheerleader type. He's the cool group. Diversity for kids is when you go into a large school, inevitably see those packs moving down the hallways and that wall with different kinds of kids on them. And so DEI movements are going to fail all over the world if they just focus on ramming kids together into diverse kinds of groups, even if led by diverse kinds of leaders, because they need to have a sense of connection and belonging. And the large school frequently has a sense of that it's kind of unforgiving and unaccepting. You have the jocks group, and so to me, DEI has become all about real inclusion and real belonging. And I wanted to show you, I'm going to go on to screen sharing now and show you the most fascinating thing I've ever seen here. How do I get on screen share here? All right, can everybody see this slide here?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay,
Make it
so
slightly larger, Stuart.
what's that?
Can you make it slightly larger for us?
I don't know. Does that make it larger?
Yes.
Is that larger?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. So we were working at the Grauer School for many years, and we noticed that something was going on, but we didn't know what it was. Eventually, a number of character, social, emotional, and what they call non-cognitive type of test batteries came out. And those have been coming out for many years. But what was amazing about this new batch is that they're nationally normed in the United States. So you can see how you really are comparing rather than just some score that you didn't know what to attach to. So when we took the first one, which was called the High School Survey of Student Engagement, put out by your counterpart in the United States, which is the National Association of Independent Schools, NAIS, we got back something like this, and we were in the 99th percentile in most areas. But that's not what blew our mind. What blew our mind is that our kids in this school that was only 150, 60 kids, the kids felt, their perception was that they were making connections all the way across groups. So you can do all the surveying in the world, but if the kids' perceptions aren't being changed about interaction across diverse groups, what good are you doing? So here you can see that, take the second one, high school perceptions of respect for diversity. Look at the second group there, my racial or ethnic groups. You can see that small independent schools are outscoring. They're in the red. They're significantly outscoring medium and large schools in respect and perception for diversity. You can see how a small independent school gets better respect. And of course, you can see the Grauer School towering above all of them in blue. But I don't think that's because we're inherently better. I think it's because we got on early on to the actual benefits and what we could do with a small school. So, and it's not just DEI of ethnicity. You can look over on the right and see the greater respect for gender identity, sexual orientation. And on the left here is different social classes. So look at this one here from another one that this is the HESI. This one here is the panorama. Please try this with your school. Take the panorama battery, and it will show you all of these different qualities of connection that prove that your small school is more inclusive, has a greater sense of diversity, and cohesiveness, belongingness. All of these things that are the reason we get up in the morning and show up are greater at small schools. And to me, the fact that we have the panorama and the HESI and another one called the challenge success are by far the best things that's happened in education over the past decade, because they actually enable us to look and compare against schools of other sizes. That's Ken Robinson right there with me. Here you see some of these data points. Does that answer your question, Jeremy?
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you.
It's a great question.
We've got some, yeah, no, we've got some time for some other questions. Raise your hand or throw a chat, throw your question in the chat and we'll throw it out to Stuart. Who's got a question out there? I heard lists of them as I was walking from room to room. Mike, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, thank you, Jeremy. I have a question, Stuart. Could you talk to us and maybe share some experiences you've had at your school where you've maybe your school served as a lab site, or you did some innovation projects, you know, to kind of maybe experimenting and playing around a little bit with school and maybe making some mistakes along the way? Do you have any examples of some things that you did?
Yeah, the main example is the Grauer School. The whole thing is a lab. And I think one of the beautiful things on a meta level, Michael, that small schools can be limber and loose. And that's a key design feature that when you're in a large school, you've got to, sometimes things that seem ridiculously small to me, my fellow heads or principals in public schools have to go to boards in order to get action where you could say if something's obvious, the small school leader just does it. So staying quick on your feet and having a minimal, a high hover height with that governance is really, really important. And I think, honestly, I'm going to answer you in an unexpected way. One of the most important things I ever did as in experimenting with programming was we started getting some boards that got so excited that they wanted to meddle and be involved in things that were really management and not governance anymore. And so I created really in-depth, really highly researched, I spent years on this, board orientation, and even preliminary surveying to make sure that people on the board were not going to meddle in the governance of the school, so we could be quick and loose on our feet. And they understood this as a fundamental design feature of the Grauer School and of small schools in general. Some of the areas where we've had particular play beyond where public schools or larger schools would dare do it is our expeditions program. We have a proposal process where any student in the whole school can propose anything they want. And as long as they're willing to go through proposals, it's who, what, when, where, and why. We refuse to give them a form, and they run it through the head of school or the principal or faculty members before the head of school. And if they want a club, if they want to dance, if they want to run a trip somewhere, maybe they want a new course. At a small school, you can get anything you want if you have a group of students. I tell kids, if you have 3 to 5 kids and you want a class and you have a teacher here that is willing to do it, let me see the proposal. So that's a great example, I think. You want to, did I answer your question?
No, that's great. Thank you so much.
It looks like, I'm not sure who, was it Sky that had her hand up first?
We've got Paul up next.
Okay, thank you, Jeremy, for moderating. Appreciate that.
Hi, Stuart. Thanks for this session. And I can see the value of other sessions you got a considerable amount to offer. Quick question on, do you have a view or research on scope for if we had 220 students and had the choice between, say, 4-year-olds to grade 8 or 4-year-olds to grade 12? Any view or research on that?
I love that question. And the answer is no, I don't. My vision personally is for a high school, grades 9 through 12. And if I had my choice, that's what I would do. but I've taught and been a principal even in grades preschool all the way up through 12 and taught postgraduate college courses as well. I love the idea of, K through 12. To me, the reason I picked 9 through 12 and the smaller limit of grades is because in high school is where they're really developing a voice. And I love middle school kids and I love elementary kids, but the high school kids, everything we know about great education gets thrown out as soon as kids get in secondary school, and it. It all becomes test-centric and rigor, and the kids are stuck in chairs. It's incarceration. So the thing I love about mixed groupings, and we added a grade 7 and 8 and even a 6, 7, and 8, because parents just put so much pressure on me because they love what we do so much. And so what I'm careful to do every year is to actually structure in mentoring programs so that you can actually use that benefit. And if you have all these different grades and you're not using it, then it's a terrible loss. I remember when I added the middle school first, I told the middle school parents, I said, don't worry, we're going to have a different lunchtime. We're going to have a different start time. Your kid's not going to have to mix with high school kids. That was one of the many stupid things I've said in my lifetime. I fairly soon learned how beautiful it was to have the mixing, because it's not like a large school where it's forbidding. We're developing big brother sister relationships here all the time. And when we added the nursery at our school, I was stunned. One of the greatest assets I've ever done, back to the original question I was asked about unusual programs, certain kinds of kids just want to hang out in the nursery all the time, and it humanizes it. Same with dogs, talking about that's diversity as well. The larger schools in town used to make a mockery of the Grauer School. They say, oh yeah, Grauer School, that's where they have the puppy dogs and little kids, And eventually I said, you got a problem with puppy dogs? That's actually one of the greatest things you could do to make kids feel safe and secure and to lower stress. And especially in these days when stress is off the charts, having a nursery and having dogs and having little kids and big brother relationships is extremely calming for kids. So I didn't answer your question at all.
Thank you. I got the gist.
All right. We only have a few minutes left. Jamie's got his hand up. Jamie, if you want, Stuart, do you need to grab some water? You okay?
This has been going on for a week or so, and I'm good to go. I think we're going to make it.
All right, perfect. Jamie, last question, then we'll wrap things up.
The interesting thing that came up in our group, part of it not so much for the school where I am in the context I am in Germany, but was around the marketing and the diversity of courses you can offer. And you get the quote, well, if we go to the bigger school, they can do psychology, for example. If they come to you, you can't. I was just wondering what your take is, or if you've got any gems of knowledge or insights or research on marketing. We sell the marketing as in the family atmosphere, and that's a huge marketing tool by word of mouth. But we do occasionally get that thing about you can't offer the diversity of course or the diversity of sport you would get in a big school.
Kids do not say that they're great at soccer because of soccer. If they choose soccer or, football or tennis, 99 times out of 100, it's not because they're naturally inherently gifted in that area. It's because they went on that team and they got acknowledgement. That's why they choose what they do, and that's why they're a cheerleader or this or that. They want to belong. That's a fundamental need that has to precede whether or not they think are they going to be, if they're going to be a tennis player when they grow up and they're sure about it, go to the large public school. Sending a few kids to play at the big sports team is important, because if you can't say no, you can't say yes. But for 99% of the kids, what they need is belongingness, and they don't have to join this team, they can join that team. And they don't have to take the psychology class. They're going to get psychology right in their social studies class or history class. They're going to be getting it all day. Plus, if you have a proposal process, the kids can launch it. Our kids actually did launch a psychology class a few years ago, and it's still very popular. So it's one of this is kind of a pet peeve of mine as well, Jamie, is that the number one thing that large schools do when there's a problem or a challenge is throw another program at it, create a commission and throw a program at it. And what small schools do is pull together, and we're all together in this. We don't need any more programs. We are the affinity group. The school is the affinity group. We're the solution. We're the family. We're going to do this together. It makes all the difference in the world versus the splitting approach. And every time they create one of those programs, it actually segments people more. You have a big football team, which is a primary reason people choose your school over another school. Well, guess what? At best, 30% of the kids in the school even show up for that football game, much less play in it. And it creates cultures that seem forbidding to kids and exclusivist. It's a big topic.
Stuart,
I hope you'll keep working on that.
Yeah, no, I fundamentally agree with you. Yeah, and it's always an interesting challenge. Yeah.
well, I hate to end things here. I hope you all see why I invited Stuart on to be able to chat with us today. He definitely has a lot of passion for small schools. I encourage you to reach out to his website. I put it in the chat earlier today, the Small Schools Coalition. He's got his compilation of all of his research there for you to take a look at. And he's been very open for us to continue to help do some of this research and work as well and partner with him. So Stuart, on behalf of the team at ECIS and our small interest group, thank you for getting up early in the morning, joining us for this conversation. And I also wanted to let everyone know to stay in touch with our small schools group as we continue to grow larger. We've got our website on ecs.org, and then as well as we have an email list. If you would like to be on an email listserv to receive updates from our group, Owen is going to drop that in the chat box if he hasn't done so already, but there's a QR code that links to that list as well. So once again, thank you for joining us today. I hope that this was a fruitful hour of your time today, and that you go off and have a great rest of the day. Be well, everybody. Take care.